guys, welcome into the first of these breakout or trash can or cutting floor room tutorials. I don't know what I'm going to call them yet, but this is part of another tutorial that's already gone up on YouTube. I'm going to show you how to cut out a sky or make a selection around a skyline so you can replace a sky very quickly and very easily. If you're interested in checking out the full tutorial with which this comes from, there's going to be a link that appears up there in the top corner of this video. So we're going to go into this photo, we're going to knock out the sky, replace it with a different sky, and in particular, we're doing this to a city skyline. It's a pretty clear sky. We're going to go through, I'm going to show you exactly how I go about tackling a project like this. Let's check it out. So I got this photo of Philadelphia here, and we're going to go ahead and, well, we're going to cut it out. It's going to be relatively simple, really, because our horizon's relatively flat, and a lot of the buildings have a lot of straight-lined edges. But here's what we do. We begin with the quick selection tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag a selection over all this stuff. Again, I'm not worried about this being a totally perfect selection. Does not need to be perfect at all right now. You can see quick selection did an admirable job, and we're in a very advantageous position. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like this is the most difficult sky in the world. It's not, but it's going to allow us to talk about getting some of these details and really getting a nice selection here in our sky. We've got an easy horizon line and relatively easy buildings, and the sky is pretty clear. Like I said, it's not like this sky here where there's tons of clouds and things like that. In fact, that's the sky we're going to place over the sky. Let's just zoom in here, and we're going to begin taking a look at this. You can see we've got a decent selection all along the horizon. I'm not going to be too picky about the horizon because we'll probably fade that in a little bit when we add another sky. We need to make some selections in here. We need to go ahead and clean this up on the top of this building, probably clean up that spire a little bit, all those little holes in the top of that building, and just generally the edges of this stuff. So this is all fairly easy to do. We got to get down here next to Billy Penn, the top of Comcast Tower here. Okay, so all kinds of different stuff we got to clean up. The edges all along here look pretty good. They're workable. They could be a little more perfect, but we're going to adjust that stuff later. So first things first, here's what I'm going to do. With this selection live, well, number one, if you accidentally deselected, I'm going to hit Command or Control D to deselect, you can go right up to select and choose reselect. It's going to immediately bring your selection back. So if for some reason you deselect, don't freak out, don't worry, it's still there. Just immediately go select, reselect. Boom. No problem. All right, let's grab the poly lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool right here, and I'm going to set it to the second icon, the add to selection option. Now, I'm going to begin here at the top of the Comcast Tower up here at the water tank. I'm going to grab the poly lasso tool right here, and I'm going to have it set to the second icon, the add to selection icon. We may switch over to subtract from selection depending on what it looks like we're going to be working with. Remember, we have the sky selected, so we actually want to get rid of this bit of selection that's selecting too much of this building. So, you know what, actually, I'm going to hit the letter L to bring me back to the polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to begin with the subtract from selection option, and I'm going to run over this. I'm going to begin right here, and you can see because it's a building, it has straight lines. There are no domes or anything I need to worry about here. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm going to subtract from selection, like so, and then I'm going to hold down my Command or Control key and click, and it's going to just snap the edges of my selection together, just link them right up. So you can see I've now cut out the building. We need to add to the selection down around Billy Penn there. I think we can still use the poly lasso tool for that. I know there's a lot of small detail here with William Penn, but we can zoom in close enough. I'm going to just go to the add to selection, and you can see we can just click a bunch of times, and we can probably just get right out around him and make it look pretty good. Right there. Great. Good stuff. Hold down my spacebar key. I'm going to move my screen, and you can see it doesn't make me get rid of the poly lasso tool. I've still got it. Great. And now I'm going to hold down my spacebar key again. I'm going to move right up to here. Boom. Hold down my Command or Control key, and there we go. We've selected that. That looks great. So we've got nice and into there. Now let's come over here. We're going to use a lot of the poly lasso tool here, guys. So we've got a couple little areas in there that need to be cleaned out. So let's grab the polygonal lasso tool. We're going to begin now where we're adding to our selection, but I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key. That's going to allow me to subtract from the selection. So I'm just going to subtract out this area. All right, great. And now I'm going to add these little sort of square areas in here, just like so. Great, and maybe I'll nudge this back a little bit here. Cool. So we've got our selection right there. Great. I can add to the selection here. Just try to get another pixel or so. Oh, whoops, that would be subtracting from the selection, right? There we go. Subtract from the selection. You want to be careful not to do too much. There we go. And hey guys, just a quick message while we are cutting out this skyline. I'm selling a course over on my website, tutvid.com. There's a link that just appeared right there. It's all about how to retouch images. If you like what I'm doing here, you want to support what I'm doing here, pick up a copy of that course. It helps immensely what we're trying to do here and allows us to keep kind of moving forward down the road, creating more and more and more Photoshop and Premiere Pro and all kinds of different tutorials that are up and coming and going to be coming in the future. Let's get back to this tutorial. Let's subtract from the selection here, try to get a little bit more of a perfect selection around this stuff. Great. All right, all along the horizon looks decent there. Like, it's not perfect, but again, when we turn this into a mask, we're going to kind of correct things. Hold down Alt-Option, and let's just clean up along the edge of this building here. So I'm just going to click to there. Great. Bring this all the way back down here. Hold down Command or Control and just join that edge of our selection. And now we probably want to do, this all looks good along here. We might want to just clean this edge up. So we're actually going to remove from the selection here. We're going to straighten this right off. There we go. You can see what we did. We're going to get to these little honeycomb holes in just a minute here. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down Alt-Option once more. I'm going to come right through here. There we go. We just kind of clear that off a little bit. Again, we're just straightening the edges, right? So up along here, we're just going to knock this off. I'm holding down Alt-Option, now Command or Control, and join that right up. And you can see here, we've just got a few pixels selected along the side of the building. So again, Alt-Option. Just go right across that. Great. Looks good. Alt-Option again. Come across here. Whoops, I want a pixel too high. I'm going to hit the Escape key to get rid of that. There we go. Something like so. Great, great, great. I will... Yeah, you know what? I'm going to hold down I would hold down the Shift key. And let's just create this that little thing to get that little windowy area at the top of that building. And again, you can be as perfect or imperfect as you like. It's just all how particular you are and how great you want your final result to be. You can see here, it's just sloppy in here. So I'm going to add this corner to my selection, right? And then I'm going to subtract because we probably are taking a pixel or two too much right there. So we can get a nice, we probably went 1 pixel too far. Let's try that again. There we go. I need to use add to selection, not remove from selection. Let's try that again. There we go. And let's remove this from the selection, clean this edge right up, hold down Command or Control again to just join the edges of the selection. All right, this all looks pretty good. We can always fine-tune this once we get the sky in place, and we probably will. I'm going to subtract from the selection here as well. There we go. Just get a little bit more of the spire involved. And I'm just going over the edges of the buildings. La-di-da, looks pretty good. I could subtract this if I really want this little, whatever it is, sitting here on the top of the building. All right, good. That looks good. You can see we're missing a whole chunk of the building here. So just subtract from selection, holding down my Alt-Option key. There we go. Hold down Command or Control, and boom. Join that right off. My Alt-Option key. Bring this up and around, Command or Control, and join that off. All right, this looks good. Let's just try to get the entirety of this little mini spire on the top of this building. We're going to clear these areas out that are see-through in a moment. So we're going to do that with a brush. All right, all this looks good, and that part of the horizon looks pretty good. We can go ahead and subtract from selection here. Again, we're just kind of splitting hairs, but, you know, the more perfect you are and the more... kind of you force your mask to, or your selection to be as good as you can possibly make it, just the better your finished final results are going to be. All right, so let's add this to the selection as well. We'll probably go over this with a brush in a little bit as well, just because there's some areas that I don't want to use the Poly Lasso tool for. There we go, great. I've got a couple extra pixels too many right there, cool. That looks good. All right, and then in here, now remember, down here is beneath the horizon, so the only sky area is this top rectangle. So we want to go ahead, we want to add to our selection, and then stop right at the horizon. If we go all the way down, well, we're going to add, when we mask the sky, and the sky is going to technically be covering up part of the ground. Not very realistic, so just something to think about. Great, great, boom, boom. hold down Command or Control, and commit that. All right, so I'm going to zoom out. We now have this big selection. It's not a perfect selection yet because we haven't placed the sky and fine-tuned our edges yet, but what I want to do, and I think the important thing here, is to use this selection to mask our sky into place and just see what we've got. So the first thing I'm going to do before I even mask the sky in place is just right-click on the selection and choose to save the selection, and I'm going to name this channel Sky 01. So this is sort of like the first draft of the sky. If we come over to our channels panel, there it is, Sky 01. And if we deselect, now we don't need to worry about immediately reselecting. We can always just Command or Control click the Sky 01 channel, and it's going to load that selection. I'm going to deselect that. Let's go back to our layers. Let's turn on our clouds layer right there. So now I'm going to select the clouds. I'm going to just shift them up here, hit Command or Control T, stretch them out a little bit just so they kind of fit in my photo. I can even crunch them down a little bit, and right click, maybe choose like perspective, change the perspective of them a little bit just to kind of force and fake perspective in the sky itself. Go scale, and I'm going to stretch them out this way just a little as well. There we go. The one thing I'm going to just be cognizant of is I want to make sure my stores here aren't above my horizon line. So if I reduce the opacity a little bit, I can see that all the stores are pretty safely beneath my horizon line, which is all the way up here. So that's pretty great. In fact, I can move up higher because I do want tons of those little tiny clouds. They're really going to sell the distance factor in this shot. So increase the opacity back to 100%. And now let's go load our channel. So just Command or Control, click on Sky 01, go back to the layers. We're on the clouds layer, and we're going to go Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal Selection. So you can see we've replaced our sky. It looks actually pretty darn good. Now, if we zoom in, we can see that the horizon's not perfect, but it's really not bad either. I kind of dig it. It looks really good. Both are daytime shots. It really kind of brings this into the afternoon. One of the problems that we're going to have, obviously, and we're not going to cover it right now, is the fact that the sides of the buildings don't reflect this sky. They reflect more of that closer to sunset colors in the sky, or the oranges. But one of the things I want to double check here, I'm going to set this layer to the blend mode of multiply, and I'm going to just zoom in here and take a look at the towers and just make sure that everything looks good. We can see here that we have a little bit of like white stuff on the edges of the buildings. It's really not going to be bad up here. It kind of works with the color of the sky. In fact, even all the way up the spire, it works really well. But where it might not work is with some of the coloring down here, although that's not too bad there. Some of around here we'll clean up. We want to clear out, like I said, we want to clear out that kind of honeycomb grid area in there. That won't be a problem. I'll show you how to do that. And then just some of the stuff around the top of this building. And so on and so forth. The kind of the white, matte edge or fringe, I should say, at the top of that building. We want to clean that stuff off down here on the side of this tower as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's begin all the way over here. So this is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be a little bit of manual work, but we're going to grab our brush tool. We're going to select the mask, and I'm going to right-click. I'm going to make sure my brush is maybe like 3 pixels in size, and I want to make sure that I'm painting with white, and I'm going to zoom in. Go back to my brush tool, paint it with white, and I'm going to click once. I'm going to hold down Shift and click again. Hold down Shift and click again. I'm going to hold down and Shift and click again and click again. And you can go over these edges as many times as you want until it looks just the way you want it to look. All right, that's great. I can come right up here around these letters. Very cool. And you can see we're able to just go over this. And if you have a tablet, a Wacom, anything like that, it's great to use that. Here is also where we can just add sky over some of these kind of orangey colored areas to just kind of cover some of this stuff up with our new sky. Now remember, it's going to be interacting a little bit differently here because we have our sky set to the blend mode of multiply. But it's still doing an admirable job covering it up and just kind of knocking out some of the orangeness and some of that, just that very bright fringy edge. We can see our little rectangles in there worked out really well. Great. I didn't have any, we're below the horizon there. All right, we can see we've got what looks like some glowing edge here on the side of that building. There we go, got rid of it. See that one click? So click there, hold Shift, click again, boom. You just go right over the edge with this brush. I'm just holding down Shift and I'm clicking along the edges. And it's just cleaning those edges up, really making sure they blend, making sure we don't have that like light colored fringe. It's really, if you get rid of fringing and haloing on the edges of your selections, it's really going to help sell your final result a lot. All right, let's come down the side of the building here. I'm still painting with black. I'm still painting with white, I'm sorry, because I'm revealing sky that is going to sort of cover up some of the building, if you will, and really help us in terms of just covering up any sort of little halo-y stuff that we've got going on. Now what we want to do is come into here, And we want to get rid of the bits of the building here. So I'm going to grab my brush tool, and I'm just going to paint with white right into those areas. So this is where a tablet really comes in handy. You can just very quickly go in there, and any of that like yellowy stuff showing through, you probably want to try to paint that stuff away, because that color is there because the other shot was very close to sunset. So you can see we backed this off, and it's looking much, much better. I can just go over this just like so. Looks pretty good. Got a little bit too much darkness in there. There we go. It looks great. I can continue going over things here. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to paint back over that. That looks better blended like that. And, you can go over, over anything you want. I'm going to right-click here, make sure my brush is, 2-3 pixels. Click, shift, and click. I'm holding on shift, and I click, shift, and I click, and so on and so forth. We can go over the top of this building a little bit, see what that looks like. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. All right, we can check this out. This all looks good. We want to clean up the edge of the building there just a little bit, and then right up here it looks like a little bit of halo. All right, and then again, we're going to use our brush tool and just go over each of these little areas and see what kind of difference, if any difference, it's making a little bit of a difference that it's going to make for us in there, because we're just allowing the sky now to peek through. If we Option click on our mask, you can see we're adding sort of this honeycomb effect to our mask. So we're going to allow our mask to make the sky sort of shine through it, if you will, which is going to allow it to be seen. That way, if the mask, or the sky, excuse me, is like bright blue on the backside of the building, you would have blue show through there. In fact, if I unlink the mask and move the sky, so blue is back there, you can see now, we see blue through the building like you're supposed to see, because it's, actually transparent and see-through. Let's zoom in here on the side of City Hall, go back to the mask. I'm going to paint over some of this just like yellowy residue that's hanging out and not really supposed to be there. So you can see we can just go over this very quickly and create a nice selection. And by the way, I'm not using the new select a mask feature in Photoshop. I've got a whole video on that tool and feature, and it's really not that good of a feature, not right now at least, but Adobe's working on it. They're working to make it better. All right, I'm going to clean up this little fringe here along the top of Comcast Tower. Whoops, don't want to do that. Let's try that. That looks a little bit better. That almost looks bad. There we go. Get rid of that dark edge. We've got this whole fringe running down the side of the Comcast Tower here, so we want to make sure we get rid of that. Cover that right up. Cool. And then we got some crazy fringing here along the side of the old, I believe this was called Bell Telephone Tower back in the day. Let's bring this down here. I'm not like super thrilled with the way this looks. You know what? In fact, I'm going to grab my Poly Lasso tool again, and I'm going to see if I can just straight add to the selection. So when I create this selection here, I want to fill with the color white. So Alt backspace, Option delete, and then Command D to deselect. And I want to be careful because I don't just want it to sort of add this dark edge, because the dark edge might be just as noticeable as a light edge. No, dark edge actually isn't nearly as noticeable. All right, so I'm going to grab my Poly Lasso tool here. I'm going to begin all the way down here. Let's add this, add that, add that, add that. Great. Okay, so you see I just held down the space bar and it planted a point in my Poly Lasso where I didn't want it. Hit the backspace or delete key. It'll undo that for you. Nice little trick. Hold down the Shift key. Great. All right, now we're going to bring this out here. And again, I'm going to hold down Command or Control to finish that selection off. Again, we're going to fill this with white because we're looking to show sky and just cover this little bit of white haloing that's appearing on the edge of the building. All right, so great. We've cleaned up the edges of our selection. The one last thing that you may want to do is with the brush tool, set the opacity of the brush to like 15 or 20%, something like that. Right-click, make sure the hardness of the brush is about 0, and then you want a fairly large-sized brush, about 200, 250 pixels. Maybe that's a little bit too big, actually. And we'll just paint over the horizon area with some white. So what it's going to do is it's going to help blend the edge of the sky with what's going on down here a little bit further beneath it. So you can see how it's just taking away a lot of that just very drastic difference. Now, it is sort of starting to show some of those buildings from the original photo, so we want to make sure we aren't showing any of that. Make the opacity of the brush go back to 100%. Make the brush a lot smaller. And I'm going to go in here and just make sure I get rid of any of that kind of stuff that's showing, and maybe set the opacity of the brush to more like, I don't know, 30 to 50%. Let's try that. If we can get it to, there we go. And what we'll do is we'll just try to blend this all together a little bit more realistically that way. It's a nice, easy way to blend stuff together in Photoshop. There we go. And then we'll go over, yeah, you can see over here, we definitely got some of that building coming through. That would look pretty bad. So just keep your eyes peeled for anything like that. Anything that's going to show up. You can see there's a whole part of a building and like a light tower over there. That would be kind of problematic, right? So you can see there's a little tiny light tower. I'm going to double click on my clouds layer. It's going to open up the smart object. I believe this right here is the light tower that's causing us issues. So what we're going to do is we'll grab the healing brush tool. I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option key, and I'm going to paint like that and just get rid of it. And in case it's any of these towers, I'm going to get rid of them as well. There we go, and just Command or Control S to save it. I'm going to close that, and you can see there we go. No more problem. Let's just blend this in a little bit nicer. Whoop, make sure we grab our brush tool. I'm going to blend this together just a touch. There we go, something like that. That looks pretty good. So there we have it. We would have gone and created our selection and placed a big old sky in there and set it to the blend mode of multiply. By the way, setting it to a blend mode is a nice way to just try to get it to blend a little bit better with the original image. You can go multiply and then like reduce the opacity a little bit, and you can get a pretty realistic sky. There's what we have. There's what we have now. A nice little trick, something to keep in mind when you're working on this. And by the way, if you Alt or Option click on the mask, you can check it out. And maybe this is our final finished mask that we really love. You can just simply, well, I'm going to Alt or Option click on it to get out of that, but you can Command or Control click it. Remember, we saved our mask before. You can go Select, Save Selection, and we could say Sky 02 or Sky in Use, something like that. Command or Control D to deselect. And over here in channels, we have Sky 02. So I would probably at this point select Sky 1, just drag it to the garbage to delete it so we're not tempted to use it or accidentally use it or something. And we have our mask ready to select, and that's just our channel for our actual mask that we've created. So I want to thank you guys for checking out this first throwaway cutting room floor outtake style tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Time consuming, yes. Maybe a little drudgery, sort of, yes, but this is why I try to skip this stuff when it's involved in my tutorials, and this will be sped through in the actual tutorial on creating a nighttime scene from a daytime scene and this whole space attack composite. You can check it out with the link that appeared up there in the top of this tutorial. But for replacing a sky, and more importantly, creating a selection that works without using Select a Mask or even Refine Edge, that's it. Get it, got it, good. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. I'll catch you in the next one.